What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about Anthem because some of the early sales numbers are starting to be released and it looks like this game is not moving units. To be quite frank, this game is selling like trash, which is a little bit shocking just because they put so much money behind this. They released so many commercials, so much hype, and really, they tried to get people invested in it, and clearly it is not working whatsoever. At this point, I have actually fully beaten Anthem. I did every single story quest, I did a lot of the side missions, and I even did a little bit of the in-game. It's a game that's decent, but not really special. It's not spectacular. The combat is great, but in just one of those things that, at the end of the day, doesn't really matter, and you're definitely seeing the fact that gamers are not excited for it. So basically what's going on right now is the early sales numbers are being released over in the UK. In Europe, they're much more transparent about how many things are being sold, the units that are being basically gone out of stores. Now what's interesting is that we know for a fact now that this is selling much less than Mass Effect Andromeda. That was the last major Bioware release. And what's kind of crazy is Mass Effect Andromeda was also considered a giant failure by EA. Electronic Arts is their parent company, and if they say it's bad, it's very bad news for them. Well, Mass Effect Andromeda is actually selling twice as much as this did. This is selling half the numbers at launch that Mass Effect Andromeda did. Now, to make this comparison a little bit more crazy, Mass Effect Andromeda sold half as much at launch as Mass Effect 3, which means that this game, by all measurements, is completely bombing. Now, what's really crazy is we do need to try and realize the fact that this is a different time period. Things don't sell in the same way. I mean, back in the day, games would sell crazy numbers in stores, physically. I mean, let's just take a look at the fact that you could release a remake of a game and it'd still sell a couple million copies, or a really crappy spin-off like Gears of War Judgment. I love Gears of War. This is not a great game. It still sold decent numbers in stores though, just because back in the day, we bought everything physically. Things have changed though. People are shifting more and more, especially recently, towards getting things digital only, just buying it through a marketplace instead of actually going to a store to pick it up. Even still, I think that this is only accounting for part of the problem. I mean, let's just talk about other games. So, Anthem is definitely a little bit of an issue with it, I think, is the fact that this is an always online experience. It is a multiplayer only game, and so because of it, people are going to be thinking of it a little bit differently. But this isn't even a good excuse because let's just compare it to another always online game. So, Anthem is obviously being produced by EA. Well, let's look at some of their rivals. Activision. Activision, back in 2017, released Destiny 2. Now, Destiny 2, I think, has a lot of comparisons to Anthem. It is a squad-based looter shooter that has you repeating missions to try and get new gear, new upgrades. Well, let's just look at their sales numbers side by side. Week 1, just looking at the end of the opening weekend. Well, this sold 4 times as much. Destiny sold 4 times more copies than Anthem did in the same window. That is really starting to paint the picture that something is going catastrophically wrong over at Bioware. So I think this really brings us to the billion-dollar question, which is that could they get shut down? I mean, in most of the games industry, people usually go by the one strike, you're out rule. If you have one game that totally bombs, typically your parent company completely destroys you. That, unfortunately, is kind of just the way things go. People don't really get second chances in this industry, which I do think is kind of a shame. We all make mistakes. Sometimes people make giant games that are supposed to be epic, end up flopping, and they never get a chance to try and learn from their mistakes. Well, I think that they're cutting Bioware a little bit more slack, but I do think that it's possible that they're getting now the 3 strikes and you're out rule. So let's face it, Mass Effect Andromeda, that's gone. Mass Effect Andromeda did not do well. It didn't even get any DLC just because it sold such abysmally pathetic numbers. Anthem, it looks like it's starting to have some very scary similarities. Anthem is not moving. People aren't excited, a lot of the review scores are pretty low, and it looks like nobody is even excited for the future content updates. If people aren't hyped at launch, they're not going to be hyped in a year. That means there's only one major game left that they can really put all their freaking eggs in. One big basket to hold all their hopes and dreams. And that is the new Dragon Age. We know for a fact that this is in development. They even showed a little teaser trailer not too long ago, but it's still one of those things that has everything in the world riding on it now. Personally, I still really like Bioware. I think that they're a studio that has so many freaking talented people at it. Yes, it's true that some of their biggest and best people have unfortunately left the company long ago, but still, within them is just this real kernel of inspiration. They're very good at trying to make games that nobody else could. So I still think that there is a lot of potential in what they could end up doing with this new Dragon Age. It looks really, really good. I still think that it's a little bit unfortunate that now every bit of pressure is upon it. If Dragon Age does not sell explosive numbers, I fully predict that EA is going to come in and completely liquidate Bioware. I think that they're actually going to go in and just shut the company down. Electronic Arts, even if you just completely despise them, you have to realize that they are a business. But something I personally hate about them is that Electronic Arts, they're kind of axemen. They're people in the industry who have a really bad habit of coming in, buying studios that have a lot of potential, letting them release a couple of games, and the second they make a mistake, you go on the chopping block. You screw up, you die. That's it. There is no phase 2. You either make only perfect great gems or you get out of a job. And I do think that they're actually looking at EA like this. I think a big problem is the fact that Anthem is an always online experience. This is going to end up screwing them in the long run. This is a games as a service. Games as a service projects always have a giant downside to them, which is that the teams never get to move on. They're not going to be just basically taking these people who are currently working on that game and shift them over to Dragon Age. Now, every single person who's currently working on Anthem is probably going to be stuck on that project for at least the next year, or 2 years, or maybe even 3 years. Making DLC, rolling out updates, writing new quests, which means that because of it, those developers are not going to be utilized in future content. I mean, let's just face it, you are not going to be seeing, even the very best writers over on Anthem are not going to be jumping onto other things. They're glued to that now. That is their job. This is actually part of the problem I had with Fallout 76, or some games like World of Warcraft had this a little bit, which is that even the best people end up getting completely tethered to that one game. They can't move on. They can't experiment. They can't really go on to that next giant great thing because now Anthem is their job. Does this mean they're screwed? Honestly, I think it does. My biggest fear right now is the fact that Anthem seems to be like a boulder that could be very much holding them down. We're right now looking at very, very early predictions. This is a game that was very heavily emphasized to be a digital-only experience. A lot of the trailers straight up talk about the fact that you could get early access if you got Origin Premiere and stuff like that, which means that people are going to be basically getting this only on PC or only digitally to try and get that early access to it. I do think that that probably accounts for at least 10% of the lower sales, but 90% of this is still just a very bad omen. It's showing the fact that people are not getting in on this. Bioware is a great group. They are a company that has made some super good stuff, but these last couple of games have just been abysmal. They've been bad. There's not two ways to really cut this cookie. People are not happy with Bioware. They're not doing what people want. They need to try and take things back to basics. Create a remake of something like Knights of the Old Republic. Give us some old school Star Wars love. You guys have the property. You guys are the only people in the world who are even allowed to make Star Wars games. Do stuff right. Do stuff that people want. Do stuff that'll make you happy, that'll make us happy, and quite frankly, make you the money you need to stay in business. But what do you guys think? Are you as worried as I am that it looks like they could be completely screwed? Bioware, even if you hate their recent work, is a good team of developers. They are just normal people who are trying their very best to make some very special experiences, and unfortunately, recently, they just keep failing. I still have hope that what they touch next could be amazing, and I'll fully admit that without even seeing anything about Dragon Age, I'm definitely going to be buying it day one. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Ooh, boy, man, I kind of want to go play some more Gears of War Judgment. This game is bad, but the online's kind of silly and goofy and fun. I'll admit it.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.